Today's artwork is not a commission, but a Draw This in Your Style challenge. In these types of challenges, an artist would provide an artwork and everyone else will recreate it in their own way. Usually artists that start these challenges do it to promote their own art and social media while also promoting the artists that participate in it. Some artists would give prizes to their favorite interpretations, but this is not always the case, just like in this challenge. It's usually just done for fun, and it's a way for the art community to socialize. What I did like about what this artist did for her challenge is she went out of her way to make Instagram reels showing off other artists' work and commenting on what she liked about their pieces. Of course, since there were so many entries, she didn't get to cover everyone, which is totally fine and understandable. It's kind of cool to see that when I did this challenge, Chwys, I hope I'm saying the name correctly, was just at 5k followers back in 2021, and when I checked this year, she's now at 50k. Definitely well deserved. I love her art, but I definitely feel like she deserves more than 50k. For this challenge, I wanted to try out a different pixel art style which leaned more towards a messier look. I didn't want to use symmetry rulers and I didn't want clean lines or shading, which I usually did. I just wanted to see how I could make messy pixels look good. I can see that kind of effect very often in non-pixel art, whether it's in digital or traditional mediums, and it just looks really great. But in pixel art, the most common style I would see is very symmetrical, clean, and I understand why. The medium makes it really easy to do that because, little squares. It's very easy to make everything more symmetrical when it's all in a pixel grid. There are several pixel artists that have done this already, but I myself haven't done a messy pixel art style that I was really happy with. In my first attempt, I wasn't very sure what I was doing, so I just tried to recreate the way this artist did the shading for her face and got a little lost trying to figure out how to do the eyeshadow, so I redid it. For my second attempt, I focused more on determining the main shape of the face while taking care not to make it too clean and pristine. I want to make my lines as loose and ragged as I can. However, I didn't want my lines to be too dark and overbearing because I do want to capture the softness of the artwork that I'm copying. So I avoided using black for my lines and instead used brown to emphasize the eyelashes, eyebrows, sides of the lips, and shape of her face, while I used lighter shades for the other details. Once I was happy with the general look of the face, I started working on the rest of the body. The intricate details aren't too important to me at this time, and I just want to complete the image as a whole before I detail them. sometimes I would pause to make an experiment on a small portion of the artwork, like what I'm doing here on the girl's hair. I've never done pixel art hair in this messy style before, so I was trying to figure out how I would make it look. And as I did, I decided right then and there to finally fix up the face. This time around, I had a much better idea of how I wanted to go about it. You might have noticed that for the girl's moles, I used different shades of brown in there. The truth is, the original artwork displayed large and small moles, and because I couldn't really do that well in pixel art without it looking too big, I just changed the shades to at least emphasize some more than the others. I'm using a little bit of dithering here, and while this technique kind of goes against the messiness of the art style, mixing it around with the jagged lines, I think it kind of works. Mixing messy shading and lines with patterned shading actually gave it some personality. For the neck, I created a rough gradient using 4 different colors with dithering at the edges. The dress was pretty fun to draw. My main goal was to make a silhouette that accentuated her feminine features, but still maintaining the flowiness of the dress and her robe. So I gave the chest portion of her dress some clear lines and then added some shading. I then added some highlights and then even darker shading. Instead of using another color for the darker shading, I instead used a dithering brush. I did the same approach to her ribbons and robe, but adding a bit of purple instead of a darker blue to give it that soft feeling like in the original artwork. My favorite part about drawing this dress was probably making these random patterns. Since the original artwork itself doesn't have a clear design on it, I used my own spin on it. I lowered the opacity and then played around with color dodge and overlay color modes, and eventually decided to go with overlay. One thing I absolutely adored about this artwork I'm copying is the fact that it challenged me to work with shading techniques that I've never done before. I'm using purple over this light blue-green color, and I didn't know that that could actually work. I always used shadings that were close to the base color as possible. I do use a bit of color shifting in my work, but not to this degree, and I don't think I've ever done this kind of color combination where it's like light blue-green with purple, and the result was actually this soft and flowy texture. The texture is actually making me think about old DOS games from way back when. And it also made the cloth look iridescent. Sometimes see after a rain. The one's created from a mixture of water and gasoline. Yeah, it gives me that kind of vibe. Or like one of those shiny stickers. Anyway, you know what I mean. Probably, I don't know. Now for the hair, the technique I employed was much different from her dress. I started with a base color, then I started drawing chunky highlights, and then even lighter but slightly thinner highlights. After that, I used an even smaller brush to make the lines of the darkest shades. With this, I was able to define the texture of the hair even more. Along the way, I began to modify the highlights to make them a lot thinner to detail the texture. For the flowers, I pretty much took the same approach as I did with the hair, without the fine line textures. By making the base color darker, then adding the highlights to add more detail to it. I used blue for shading and a lighter shade of purple pink for the highlights. The background is a light blue-green canvas with a dithering effect in a darker shade. I didn't really give it much thought because, you know, it's just a really small portion of the whole canvas and it's kind of just there to not make the background feel so blank. Just behind the girl is this pink halo over her head. I drew an uneven outline over it and then added a bit of rough shading to complete the look. And because I was posting this on Instagram, I added these dark blue vertical bars with a dithering pattern to make the canvas a perfect square. I'm actually not sure if it was already possible to post pictures on Instagram without making it a square during that time. I wasn't very well versed in Instagram, so I thought, hey, we gotta put there. But I think I kind of like it this way. It's kind of cute. It's kind of nice. I would prefer doing this than cropping the whole thing into a square. That's just gonna make me sad. And that's how I made the angel with golden locks for the Chwys 5K subscriber Draw This in Your Style challenge. Are you familiar with this artist's work? Do you like to participate in art challenges like this? And what do you think about the messy pixel art style? Let me know in the comments. For now, this has been CheesyPaninie with extra ham and cheese, and I'll see you guys later. Take it easy and stay cheesy.